Alright, it's the master of the smack. Listen up good when I'm on the attack. Wrestling is full of nearly men. Wrestlers who nearly became champions and main characters, but at the last moment the opportunity seemed to slip through their fingers. And today's video is most certainly one of those guys. I've seen this guy get quite a lot of hate online, which I've never really understood why. Maybe the Shove It Squad can help the Hawk out with that one. But anyway, today it's the Miracle Mike Bennett. Today's video was also a Patreon request by somebody, I've lost your name, but I still made the video and that's what counts. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up today. Just don't expect me to remember your name. Upon joining TNA, I'd barely heard of Mike Bennett, but hardcore wrestling fans seemed to be excited as he was joining from Ring of Honor, a promotion known for its high work rate wrestling. It was a bad time for TNA at the start of 2016. They'd just been kicked off Destination America and they would be starting the new year out on Pop TV, a station which sounds like it's for little babies. The stars were leaving, the crowds were leaving, and nobody had any faith in this company. What TNA needed was a miracle. The arena went dark and after a very long time, Maria Kanellis walked out. She hadn't been seen for a while in mainstream wrestling. She puts down the crowd for a while before asking if we believe in miracles, because she does, and here he is, the Miracle Mike Bennett. And he walks out looking like some kind of failed Banana Republic drug dealer. The theme music is just perfect for his swagger. He describes himself as an internet darling, the baddest mofo on the show, and pro wrestling Jesus all at the same time. He is here to save TNA. He admits that wrestling is terrible right now, and it's no longer mainstream, but he plans on changing that. He makes fun of all the TNA main eventers and promises to do better than them. Some pretty bold claims, but pretty effective from TNA to establish a new main eventer. It was good to see that he didn't need Maria to be his mouthpiece, because he was good on the mic too. A couple of weeks later, Bennett made his in-ring debut. Bennett was notable for being one of the very first men to wear a man bun in professional wrestling. He has a goofy smile and lots of confidence. His first storyline would be with angry Scotsman Drew Galloway. Drew didn't like how Bennett kept trolling people. Because he was getting up in Bennett's business, Bennett smacked him out with a briefcase. He also begged Perk Angle for a one-on-one match. Whilst he didn't get the match with the master of the Perk Pop, it was still good to see Bennett associating himself with legends. Bennett racks up some wins against undercard talent, and he's winning his matches using the MIP, the Miracle in Progress. But he's still messing with and running away from Drew Galloway. 2 months into joining the company, Bennett is forced to face Drew Galloway, a man who is higher on the card than he is. They have a pretty nice match, which was kind of needed because Bennett had just been acting goofy since joining, and it was good to see that he could actually compete. And he wins, but through cheating. A nice big win to establish Bennett as an important main man in this company. The feud with Drew continues. Bennett is adamant that he deserves Drew's briefcase in his world title shot because Drew only won it in some stupid game show called Feast or Fired. I always get a laugh out of Mike Bennett's promos. Drew became the world champion, with Bennett pointing out that he should be the number one contender due to just beating Drew. Unfortunately, Dixie Carter didn't agree with Bennett. Michael Bennett continues being associated with the main eventers, but nobody has really taken him serious. They mostly just make fun of him. He started up a feud with EC3 and he attacked the Carter boy wherever he went. This does lead to an incredible Mike Bennett promo where he makes fun of EC3 and constantly reminds him how worthless he is.
You have absolutely nothing, and the only person you have to blame is yourself. Take a damn look in the mirror. It is all your fault, and if you don't want to take responsibility, that's fine. You can blame me. You fail and become a loser. So fail, become a loser.
Bennett showed great fire here as he ranted on for minutes. Then he got beaten up for minutes, so I guess you can't have it all. Meanwhile, Maria moved into a management figure for the Knockouts division. The following week, EC3 and Bennett have their match. But it's basically just a teaser because EC3 keeps almost winning but just getting screwed, and then he snaps and gets himself DQ'd. Bennett wasn't done though as he cut a furious, fiery promo making fun of how badly things have been for EC3 lately. This guy was brilliant on the mic. He could just talk and talk with intensity. He always refers to himself in the third person as the Miracle. I wish there was more guys nowadays who could just talk without any effort. Anyway, EC3 and Mike Bennett agree to fight again because Bennett believes in himself. Good to see that they only had him play a chicken shit heel for 1 week. So they clash again, and again Maria is interfering a lot. But this one actually has a conclusive finish. Mike Bennett pins and beats EC3. Now this may not seem like such a big deal nowadays with EC3 doing his weird dogfighting club in the NWA. But at the time, this was EC3's first televised loss in TNA. He had been undefeated for an incredible 30 months. So to give this moment to Mike Bennett must have meant that TNA saw a lot in his future. This led Bennett to go on a massive ego-filled rant where he kept referring to himself as God. He has now beaten Drew McIntyre and EC3, and to be fair, he's right to say that he deserves a world title shot. Randomly, Jeff Hardy interrupts. Miracle comically screams, "I am God," in his face. Jeff Hardy throws EC3 under the bus though and says to Bennett that beating EC3 just makes him a joke. The match doesn't go well because Lashley spears them both, because he also wants a world title shot. It's turned into a triple threat for the number one contendership. Again, Bennett in there with some big names. Well, Lashley wins the triple threat, but Jeff Hardy is the one to take the pin, so Bennett is protected at the cost of Jeff Hardy. They won't stop talking about Bennett beating EC3, this is treated as such a huge deal. EC3 can't accept his loss and he begs Bennett for a rematch. Mike isn't interested though, as EC3 has nothing that he wants, which makes sense. Why would he want to risk disrupting his own undefeated run? I just love Bennett's booking so far. He has Mike time every single week and it's nice consistency. He is adamant he will become a Hall of Famer and he beats up Earl Hebner in a match as a way to prove this somehow. Bennett basically spends the next few weeks ducking EC3 and forcing him to have matches against other people. EC3 ends up running the show and then he grants himself a pay-per-view rematch against Bennett. Word of advice, Shove It Squad, find yourself a woman who looks at you the way that Maria looks at Mike. This is kind of the start of Mike Bennett showing a comedic side to his character. EC3 forces Mike to clean the toilets as they talk about the types of dump that are in each station. The smell is so bad that Bennett storms back to the ring where EC3 forces him to have a match with Cowboy James Storm. And guess what? Bennett wins once again. That is now a whole bunch of TNA legends that the Miracle has beaten. McIntyre, EC3 and James Storm. Bennett and EC3 do finally face off again at Slammiversary. The match is filled with hard hitting moves and also lots of counters and reversals. It does get a bit into the spamming of finishers territory, but ultimately EC3 beats him with the TK3 and a 1%er. Bennett follows that loss up by appearing on Impact in a pineapple vest. I mean seriously, were they trying to undo 6 months of hard work at this point? But in all seriousness, what it leads to is a storyline where Mike and Maria are upset with how Dixie is running TNA. Billy Corgan stays neutral because he's friends with Mike and Maria, but he doesn't want to upset Dixie. Strangely, Maria overshadows Mike here as Dixie Carter says shut up or I'll slap you one. This management storyline goes on for a few weeks and kinda plays into the real life power struggle between Dixie and Billy. Corgan thinks that Dixie should leave TNA due to slapping Maria, and she does just that. This is pretty effective heel heat because Mike Bennett doesn't come out looking dumb for bragging about his friendship with Billy, and he gets what he wants. Things suddenly get stranger as Miracle begs Billy for a world title shot, but Billy won't do it. But he does agree to give him an X Division title shot. For once, Billy doesn't deserve a punch to the gut though, because this is going to help Mike. The X Division title can be traded in for the world title. It's called Option C. And just like that, Mike Bennett faces Eddie Slapnut Edwards for the X Division title. And he actually beats him, despite trying some questionable high-flying manoeuvres. Mike Bennett as the X Division champion. I really don't remember this ever happening. Due to this, Bennett starts flirting with the main event again. It's the second time they've teased the Bennett vs Lashley feud. After defending the title once against the boy in the beanie Braxton Sutter, unfortunately Dixie Carter returns. She punishes Mike and Maria by forcing Mike Bennett to defend his belt in an Ultimate X match. Unfortunately, we're getting back into the comedy territory again. Bennett jumps in the air, desperately trying to capture his belt. He jumps up and down like a complete idiot. He eventually tries the wires, but he's not athletic enough. Eddie Slapnut Edwards eventually recaptures his Slapnut belt, and no world title for Mike Bennett. Dixie Carter tells the couple off. She was disappointed because she hired them to make a difference to TNA, but instead they're turning it into a joke. Billy Corgan's no longer on their side either, as he tells them both to quit. Bennett won't quit though. Instead he vows to ruin Destination X. And ruin it he does. It doesn't go all his way though. First he attacks Zema Ion after his match, and that ends up being turned into a match, and somehow Bennett loses to Zema Ion. But not to worry, he hasn't finished on this show because later in the night he appears in the ring during the main event world title match, and he's not alone either. This is how Moose debuts in TNA as Bennett's running buddy, another former Ring of Honor talent. Mike Bennett held up his end of the bargain and truly ruined Destination X. Quickly, it looks like Moose is more likely to have the world title shot with Lashley than Bennett is. These two seem to be the match that the crowd want to see. Bennett instead has to enter a tournament for the world title. First up he faces Jeff Hardy, and surprisingly Bennett beats him pretty quickly, adding another big name to the list of already impressive names on the list. Bennett continues firing shots at Lashley. At this point Bennett has been begging for a world title shot for 7 months. Moose is supposed to be here to help Bennett, but he's spending more time trying to keep him from fighting Lashley. You can see that the thought of Moose fighting Lashley is going to cause some tension in this friendship. In another World Title Tournament match, Bennett beats Drew Galloway once again with the Miracle in progress. Mike is getting lots of help in his matches, but it's hard to ignore the wins that he's racking up. In the final, he goes up against EC3, and he really doesn't like EC3 because old Michael doesn't get on with Aunt Dixie. It's a really nice promo exchange between two up-and-coming main eventers. Both guys hold a victory over the other, so this match will be the decider. Bennett really needs to win this one though. It just doesn't go his way though, with no Maria at ringside, and Eddie Slapner Edwards takes out Moose. EC3 wins the match with the 1%er, and at this point I would normally say it's pretty much game over for Bennett. It's all about Moose now, and he looks more likely to do the main event. Bennett is essentially just leeching off of him at this point. But no, there's a number one contenders battle royal, and Mike Bennett manages to dunk out Slapner Edwards and Moose at the same time. So Bennett does finally get his world title shot, but at what cost, as he's destroyed his friendship with Moose. In the lead up to his world title match, Bennett is just too distracted for this feud. His focus is on what Moose is going to do rather than what he has to do to beat Bobby Lashley, and Lashley just keeps turning the screw to wind him up. Anyway, the biggest match of Bennett's wrestling career is him challenging for Lashley's world title. They get over 10 minutes. Bennett actually does pretty well considering nobody's helping him. In fact, it's the opposite. Moose appears at ringside and takes away his weapon. Bennett turns around into a spear from Lashley and it's game over. The friendship with Moose is definitely over, and Moose smacks Bennett one. And now, it's all downhill from here. Bennett throws a tantrum on the next Impact. Somehow he still believes that he's going to become a world champion. Dixie really hates Bennett and decides to make him face Moose on pay-per-view at Bound for Glory. Mike would need a miracle to beat Moose because at this stage all he does is lose matches. It's a complete change from his first 6 months in TNA. The match with Moose is a good one. It's not out of place or anything, but we all know it's a foregone conclusion and you're just waiting for Moose to win, which he eventually does. Bennett then enters into a mini feud with Cody Rhodes. He loses, not once, but twice. He also loses to Moose once again, and also Braxton Sutter. How the mighty have fallen, and to think this man used to be wrestling's Jesus. He doesn't really wrestle that much after this, he's just a comedy supporting character to Maria. Admittedly, some of these are pretty funny though. His final storyline is that he's like a friend to Braxton Sutter who's being forced to marry Ali. But he's not really a friend, he's just a goofball. He throws Braxton a stag do where he spends most of the time getting drunk and moaning about how hard it is being married to Maria. I think he was just depressed about how his TNA run went. And also, I'm not sure Mike Bennett is the best man, maybe Braxton Sutter has no friends. I just love how this wedding completely falls apart around him and he's just stood there smiling and drinking. Shows how versatile he is though, being able to play a serious heel and a comedy goofball. After 1 year, Maria and Mike were advised by Kevin Owens, another former ROH friend, not to re-sign with TNA. So their run only lasted a year. Bennett was extremely active in TNA over that 1 year, so it felt like he was there for longer. He ended up jobbing in the WWE for the next couple of years before rejoining TNA and doing some AEW too just for fun. He was never a main character again though. He was now just a random faction mate in an ROH based team called Honor No More. He was subservient to Eddie Slapner Edwards, so that tells you all you need to know. It can't get much worse than that. I kept asking myself, why couldn't Mike Bennett get one more shot? He'd proven he could do it. But at the same time, he looked quite old at this point and the cocky swagger had vanished. I really did enjoy Mike Bennett's 1 year in TNA run. It could have been better, but it was a good run for 1 year. It was pretty varied. He teetered on the main event scene, he had a lot of microphone time, and he even captured the X Division title. I am still not sure why people don't like this guy. At the same time, I don't really think there was a correct time to make him the TNA World Champion. Bobby Lashley was so damn dominant and EC3 was just a bit better than him too. Then you throw people like Cody Rhodes and Moose into the mix and you can't really make an argument for Bennett as World Champion. But let me know, should Bennett have won the TNA World title? Talking of Moose, I think they rushed that pairing breaking up too. It should have gone on for more than a month. The payoff would have been better too. But hey, at least Mike Bennett on screen gave us a lot of Maria on screen too, and that can never be a bad thing. And if you don't agree with that, I'll end your marriage and make the fat lady sing.